So if Weinberg, Nichols, and Stitch's results are, in fact, good results, what should we conclude from them? I think there are a couple things, and they discuss a few things, but I want to bring out a few points. Um, One thing we might conclude is we might sort of become epistemic relativists. That is, we might say, look, different epistemic norms apply to different groups, or knowledge or justification are different for different groups. So if East Asians have certain intuitions about knowledge and Westerners have other intuitions about knowledge, that doesn't show that any of their intuitions are wrong about what knowledge is for them. It just shows that knowledge is something different for them. Or similar things might be with justification. Or if South Asians think a certain style of reasoning is rational and Westerners think that it's not rational, it might simply be that for South Asians it is rational and for Westerners it's not. That's what epistemic relativism says. It says what knowledge is relative to the group you're a part of, or what you should believe is relative to the group you're a part of. And this can be not just racial groups, but also socioeconomic groups. Now, Weinberg, Nichols, and Stitch really don't like this picture. And I think their criticism is a pretty reasonable one. They say, look, it's implausible that people in Europe should form beliefs in different ways or rely on different principles of reasoning than people in East Asia do. Or it's implausible that high socioeconomic status people, different things count as justified for them than count as justified for low socioeconomic status people. There's something troubling about that. There's something weird and unsatisfying about that. That's not a knockdown argument against it, but they find that very implausible. And I think there's some worries there. Another thing that they don't entertain that seriously, except in the objections a little bit, is this idea that, look, maybe we should just privilege our own intuitions. And so it's not that everybody's intuitions get at the epistemic truth for them. That would be a relativist picture. There'd be different epistemic truths for different groups. It's that there's one concept of knowledge, one concept of justification, one way we should reason, or one set of ways we should reason that apply to everybody. And who has access to these? Well, the idea is my intuitions track the correct epistemic norms, the correct analysis of knowledge and justification, while the other people's intuitions who disagree with mine don't. So that's a view where you sort of privilege your own epistemic intuitions, your own judgments. Now, why they wouldn't like this, they don't say much about it even, but the idea is, what's the principled reason for thinking you are special, that your epistemic norms, that your analysis of knowledge, or that your picture of justification are correct? Your intuitions about these things are right, are getting at the true principles or the true concepts, whereas other people's aren't. It's hard to do that in a way that is not sort of chauvinistic, that looks well reasoned. And people have tried in some of the objections. They discuss how they've tried. But I think it's important to realize that's a serious obstacle for this view. The final thing they suggest, and this is what they want you to do, is they want you to reject intuition-driven romanticism. They want you to reject this view, which says that intuitions or intuitive judgments are data for an epistemological theory. This is what they think you should do. This is what they take their results to suggest. And this would be a radical revision to the way that much epistemology is done. After all, remember, we thought of these examples, central examples to our discussion so far this semester. Things like the Gettier case, the clairvoyance case, skeptical reflections on judgments, intuitive judgments about skeptical scenarios or quasi-skeptical scenarios like the zebra case. We talked about bank cases. We talked about all sorts of things. The Rufus is a hippopotamus case. These are all cases where we're taking our intuitive judgments to have some value as evidence for what epistemic theory is correct. If we reject intuition-driven romanticism, as Weinberg, Nichols, and Stitch suggest, that's going to really have to change the way much of epistemology, both in its history in the last 50 or 100 years and in the way we've been doing in this class, goes.